I was just, I was just sick of fucking consuming content and not doing anything with it. Or,
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just gonna have a crack. And I initially was like, we're gonna do this at, I was gonna do it at my house, and we're on now. How's that?
Are we in?
We're in, mate.
Yeah.
We're in. I was initially going to do it at my house and just on the balcony, and then this sort of come up. So,
Opened up.
yeah.
Perfect, mate.
Anyway,
Perfect.
we are live, mate. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
What's going on?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Things are busy as usual.
Good.
It's a great little spot you got here.
Mate, I know.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for coming. Is this the first podcast you've done?
It is.
Well, mate, you've started at the top. You can only go down from here. So
There you go.
I think we've got to, last I checked, the viewership on, which was this morning on Spotify, we've got 5 listeners.
Yep.
So, mate,
There you go. Great start.
Starting with the best. Let's say
High numbers.
keep that over there somewhere so I don't use that. Cool, man. Thanks for coming in. So, like I've said, sort of off air, it's just have a bit of a chat, see what's going on, talk about yourself, talk about your story. So, the whole goal is everybody has a story. Everybody has a story and a personality that social media can't show, short form social media can't show. So I want to have the direct opposite. I don't want to do 10 to 15 second clips. I want to do it, an hour or however long we've got.
Yep.
And showcase your personality, your story. And I think as personal trainers, our story ultimately dictates the people that we help and who, what we do. So that's kind of the goal, have a little bit more long form content, and hopefully there'll be something valuable for the listeners, but also it's just going to showcase who you are and what you do. And there's a lot of stuff that I reckon people don't know about you. So
Yeah,
it's
love
probably going to be a pretty cool story. So I think, that's the goal. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right, so let's go way back.
Just come
Obviously,
closer to the mic there, mate.
if you haven't already guessed, that's the Welsh accent you can hear.
So
First Welshman on the show.
Welshman. Yeah.
We'll take that.
Yeah.
But yeah, come from the capital of Wales, Cardiff. Grown up there all my life. Starting up from a young age, always sort of been into like the fitness and training. In school, always doing athletics, doing the rugby, and inspiring on as you're getting older through school. Kind of then wanted to, broad out and do something like that.
Yep.
That's like most kids, when you're leaving at 16, you have no idea, no clue where to go.
So you left school at 16?
16, yep. Left school at 16.
Is that, could you go on to 18, like at that time, or like?
You can do, yeah. You could have choices to do A-levels. That'd be like an extra 2 years. Most people would either do that or go on to college, for example.
Yep.
Or, I have mates that have been to like mechanics. They might have like family in there, so they just go on to whatever the family business is. But most people will try out with college or go to A-levels. And for me, I went
just go a little bit closer to the mic there. You can pull it towards you. So
yeah.
Otherwise, the audio will be off. Sorry.
I don't know if it's like super loud in your ears. Is that just mine?
It is kind of in mine, but which one are you? You were 1 and 3, yeah. So maybe we
Turn
turn
it
down.
down slightly.
How's that?
That's better.
Yeah, cool. There we go.
I thought it was doing that in yours. So I was like,
Yeah. Okay, there we are. Got to get the people to hear. How's that?
Yeah, good.
Cool. Awesome. Sweet. So you finished school at 16 and then...
Yeah, finished school at 16. So after that then decided, right, where do we go from here? Went on and done a year in college doing sports science.
Oh, cool.
That was pretty cool. Pretty much everybody in my class was in the same mindset, just left school, didn't really know what we were doing. So
like sport.
It was a little bit of a mess around class, if you like.
Yeah.
But then after that, things needed to get serious,
Yeah.
So had some advertising of like a military college.
Yeah.
And then I ended up doing a year of that.
Yeah.
Well, it was meant to be a year, and during that time, I ended up getting drafted in.
Yeah.
Pretty quick, I think. And then that was it.
Yeah.
That's when life started. Career started with the military.
Yeah. And how long you were a couple of years in there, yeah? Or?
Yeah, so just under 9 years.
Yeah, right. Wow.
8.5 years of my
So
life there.
What age? You were 17 when you went in?
17 when I joined,
Yep.
and left when I was 24.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So yeah, but it was a crazy time.
Yeah.
Crazy time. Even when I think back to it now.
Yeah.
That time in life, you think of those stories, you know, I mentioned it a few before, but even when I reflect back on it, I'm like, you know, actually went and done it, you know?
Yeah.
And to be here with all four limbs and tell the stories,
Yeah, for sure.
that's the thing that's important, you know? And unfortunately, things weren't the best at times, but like any job, you just got to get on with things, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And that's like one unique thing is like, there's not many, I don't know many veterans that, you know, like are out sort of thing, you know, so it's very rare to see someone that like, I just don't know anybody that served and I think it's really, really cool.
In the Australian Army?
No.
No friends from school? Or?
No.
Okay.
There was always like every now and then they would have like the career day kind of thing come to school.
Yep.
I thought about it for a little bit. I thought it would have been cool, but I just never did it. And then
Okay.
Went on to year 12, and then I actually around about the same time I was like, it was either do that. I wanted to become like my dad's a builder, so I was like, I'll do a trade.
Yep.
And then I found out you could do that through the army, and I was like, oh cool, you could do it through the army and do it quicker. So I was like, oh, that'd be sick. And then I was also like, oh, I want to be a PT. And then pretty much ever since then, I thought that's it, I'm going to be a PT. So just rolled straight out of school, did a cert, and then went into PT.
Nice.
So how did you get into personal training? How long have you been doing that for?
Personal training now, what's that? How long have we been out of COVID? 2 years? Are we coming to the third year?
Yeah.
So around that time, I needed something to do during COVID, you know, so I ended up doing my personal training course. But way back when I was like leaving school, I always thought, oh, you know, I'd like to get into training people.
Yeah.
And I always thought I'd be a personal trainer then.
Yeah.
But at the time, you don't know where to go and the avenues and
the
courses to take. And for me, it was just like, how do I get the money in fast?
Yeah,
you know?
of course,
So down that avenue, obviously with the career of my military, that obviously took a big chunk. Done a bit of traveling, and then that led me on to teaching around the world snowboarding. You know, and finding the reward of helping people out, seeing the progress. Even just like the experience I've had from rugby, helping the younger youths out and stuff like this. Then stemming into like the personal training, it was just went hand in hand.
Of
really,
course,
you know?
Easy transition. So you're in the military, and then you played rugby before you were in the military?
Yeah. Played rugby.
And you played it at a decently high level rugby?
I'd like to say so. I'd like to say so.
So tell us a little bit about rugby.
Yeah, so originally growing up as a kid in the UK, most people like football. So, you know, in primary school, playing football. I enjoyed it. I was fast, so I was on the wing. But didn't really have like a massive love for it, you know. But I was doing it because I just enjoyed sports. And then I remember I moved schools, and I was got friendly with a pal from there, and his dad was literally like, "Why don't you try play rugby?" And I didn't even know what rugby was. They didn't have it in my last school. It was just football. So I moved to this new school.
How old were you then?
What's that? Year 6. So
okay, so still quite young.
10, 11.
Yeah.
And then at this point, I had a little go.
Obviously
found the real bug and the love for it. As a kid growing up, Mum couldn't keep me in. I was always an outside kid, and I had a lot of energy and boisterous energy. So finding rugby, I think that was
good harness for it.
Where it happened. And from there, mate, that was it. Spiraled for the next 15, 20 years of my life.
Yeah. And that's probably where you played at a quite high level. Where did you get to with your rugby?
Yeah, so with the rugby, everything for me, you know, it's kind of cliche, but things happen for a reason. And unfortunately, the time where I was really getting scouted and sort of noticed was the time I'd already planned my trip to go to New Zealand and spent a lot of money to do my instructor courses and stuff over there. So at the time when I was really getting noticed, I had to make a big decision. Stick and be unsure. Or go with my original decision, and, you know, currently that's what I've done. So that's where I am now, and I don't regret, but, you know, it'd be nice to know where that avenue took. But I did get up to a professional level.
Because you were in the Welsh squad at one point.
So in the Welsh 7 side, didn't get capped or anything like this, but I was in the training squad for a good 3.5 months. Training at their facilities, catching up with them 2-3 times a week, you know, and this was going on for months. And during this time, there was lots and lots of cuts. I think we started with maybe 36, 37 players, and they were making cuts right down to, I think it was 18.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was in like the final 21,
Yeah, right.
22, you know, so there was still a few cuts to go.
Yeah.
But things were looking promising, but I couldn't really afford to skip what my original plans were
And
in terms of funds for the age I was, you know.
Yeah. And it's one of those games as well too, man. You can put all like your whole life's effort into that.
That's it.
Tear your ACL, you know, break, you know, do whatever, and then you miss that next selection carnival or the next selection, whatever, and then that's it, you know.
Well, you know, fortunate enough, during my whole career, I was kind of lucky with injuries. I had lots of minor ones, you know, a lot of ankle injuries. Yeah. Playing in the UK, the ground's so wet and soggy. It's so easy to roll an ankle. You know, being on the wing, you expect to have some fast feet, so that can happen pretty quick. Knees. But, you know, touch wood, everything was not too bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So have you had many injuries, like through like being in the military or being like playing rugby or anything like that?
Again, nothing serious. I remember there was a pretty upsetting time emotion-wise when playing for the first team of the British Army.
Yeah.
And obviously they have the huge last game against the Navy.
Yeah.
You know, in front of 82,000 in Twickenham, and it's all, you know, it's this big event.
Yeah.
And, you know, right as they were picking the team, we'd done our last training session, or we had the last 1 or 2 training sessions. Something happened in my shin. Just from totally fine all session, last 5 minutes, started hobbling around. And they were like, go and get yourself checked up by the medical staff. Didn't know. They were like, right, let's go get some x-rays.
Yeah.
Got fastballed into there. X-rays were getting done. We were meant to be playing in like a day or 2.
Yeah.
They couldn't come up with anything. They put me on... have you ever seen those recovery...
The boot thing?
Like
the leg,
the leg things.
Yeah,
you put like the leg sleeves you put in, and it's like a compression with ice. They put me on those, on a compression for every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
All night in the hotel room.
Yeah.
And to be fair, the swelling of the knee... and my shin completely went down, but still couldn't really put the weight on it, and they couldn't really afford to take the risk.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that was my end there with the Army Navy on that year. But
would that have been like probably the biggest game that you played until that point, or?
On that term, yes. Yeah. I have played in Twickenham before.
Yeah, right.
And I've managed to play in quite a few stadiums around the UK as well. I've been lucky to do that. I've played in the Millennium Stadium as well, but. That would have been like population-wise, definitely.
Like,
that Army Navy is sort of like the pinnacle, especially when you're serving.
Yeah. That'd be a big clash, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah,
the boys just out for blood.
Always out for blood, and you know, might be a bit biased, but the Army usually take it home.
Yeah,
you know, so you know, hold on for the Army there.
Yeah. That's cool. That'd be obviously a pretty, even just probably watching that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool experience.
But it would be. You'd be gutted to not be able to play in it.
Well, you know, like anything, they're doing cuts all season.
Yeah.
You know, people are getting drafted in, people are getting drafted out, and people need to go on courses or people need to go away on tour. So the team changes a lot.
Yeah.
But they need to keep the best players around. You know, and you know when you get into sort of like the inter-services, this is when they've got their squad, and generally it doesn't really move from there. So if you're playing against the RAF. They'll have one squad, and then generally that's the feeder squad going into the Navy. So if you've played in that game, you're pretty safe. You might be in the other game sort of thing, you know. But if not, and you're in the subs, you're still in the squad. But generally, it's that inter-services side that you need to get to. And it all depends on the summer camp that we do beforehand. We tend to go over to Portugal for 2 weeks. A little bit of a thrashing out there. Fitness and just in the sun, just pretty much 3-4 sessions a day, I would say. Get you ready, and then that's it. Then as soon as you come back into services.
And so you were playing. So you played through while you were serving. In the army.
So originally I started my rugby, obviously playing in Wales. Played all through school. A good level. Played them for Glamorgan Wanderers. Mm-hmm. You know, they're top tier. They were classed as semi-pro at the time. And then, into the army. Most of my best rugby was then.
Yeah.
You know, there wasn't much guidance when I was growing up in terms of rugby.
Yeah.
Nobody in my family played before me.
Yeah, right.
So for me, it was just finding everything, and
Yeah.
I was just going as the years were going.
Yeah.
And luckily, I had the speed on my side. So, you know, I was using that to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And I started getting a lot of shine when I was in the military then. So playing for your regiment.
Yeah.
You know, you got to make that first 15 side there.
Yeah.
And then you get scouted from there into the infantry side.
Yeah.
And then you excel from the infantry. The army then are looking for you. And then there's all sorts. There's academies. There's under 20s, under 21s, under 23s.
Yeah.
It's a full
like,
you know, like a professional setup.
Yeah, right. That's crazy. I did not know
the
that.
Military, yeah.
Yeah, right. I've always seen like it's probably a little bit more publicized every now and then with like the NFL. You see like they have their Army Navy games. I didn't know that it was such a big thing.
I mean, they get crazy numbers out there, don't they? Their colleges pulling in like 110,000 or something watching, 120,000.
Ridiculous, mate.
College teams.
I don't understand. I guess it kind of makes sense. There's 350 million people there.
Yeah.
So
I suppose.
guess
I don't think the NFL crowds are as big as their college, are they?
Really? Wow.
So I've heard. I could be talking rubbish here, but
they probably televise a little bit more of the
college stuff to.
Yeah, or
maybe for the drafting or just getting people out there known and seen.
But it's pretty cool that they have such a big culture around it.
So good.
It's one thing here in Australia they just don't have with particularly rugby. Like there's culture in it, but it's not like that. And Australian rugby is in a bit of a state at the moment.
Yeah, well, you tell me from being in Australia, I hear if you're playing rugby league, that's sort of like the. What should we say? The underclass? If you're playing union, is that the upper class, as they say, or mid to upper class?
Yeah.
Whereas in the UK,
it's the other way around.
Yeah, if you're just a rough idiot, you're usually playing rugby.
Yeah. It's such a weird thing, hey. It's more like the private schools that play rugby here in Australia, and then rugby league is kind of the game that you play everywhere. It's more like
it's crazy.
The working class. So in my hometown, we had both rugby union and rugby league, but I remember they used to be very kind of separate crowds, and there was a little bit more. There's more like fighting and stuff going on in the rugby league. So I got to a point where like I liked both, and I actually probably think rugby league is a better game. But I just got to the point where I was like, I'm here to play footy. I don't want to fight.
Yeah, it's scrap,
You know, so like it happens every now and then, like everybody's got into a scrap on the field at some point. But it was like just going out to get into a fight, like take up boxing. Like,
and is it the same out here? Like for me back home, any of the city sides, so if in Wales, it's a pretty small country, so we only need to travel 10, 15 minutes out of the city.
Yeah.
And people are talking completely different. And it's like a holiday camp if they come to the city. But when we go and play those teams, you're up in the valleys, it's freezing cold. They're just rough and rugged. They want to beat us up. We don't really want to be there.
Yeah. That's my hometown's probably more like the ones that are just rough and rugged that... we weren't the best, but we'd just go out for blood, essentially. And that's kind of it. But here, like in it'd be very different to what you would experience with like you're 15 minutes out of the city and you're at a different team. Whereas we would have to travel. Probably the furthest would be 2 or 3 hours, or 2.5 hours away from my hometown to play one of the teams.
Well, in the Welsh League, it wouldn't be that. You'd usually split up the North Wales and South Wales.
Yep.
But in England, it's an open league. If you're playing at a good level, National 1, National 2, National 3 maybe, I guess, you'd be travelling all over the country.
Yeah.
2.5 hours, 3 hours, and then you've got to make that journey back. And it's a bit of a long drive if you're lost. I did have a stint playing in England as well, so I know that. That's... Yeah, way prefer the Welsh League on the travel side.
Yeah, fair. Not many people like the English, mate, so that makes sense.
Well, we've actually got them playing rugby this weekend, mate, in the Six Nations.
Oh, right.
Wales v England. So we're currently just lost against Scotland, so let's see how this goes against England.
Yeah, right. Well, in the World Cup, the Welsh side were doing pretty good, weren't they?
Yeah, we were. We've had a few players leave. One of our top try scorers, he's just gone to the NFL.
Yeah, right. Wow.
And he's only a young lad.
Really? That's cool.
21 or something, is he? 23 maximum. I don't know what his age is, but he's young.
Yeah.
Yeah, scoring tries for fun.
Yeah.
And he's just had a contract, some like professional contract to go over to the NFL.
Cool.
Drafted in, they just train him up and straight in with a team then, I think, when he's ready.
Yeah.
He's over there now training.
That's sick. I wonder what it'd be cool to see that, because I always wondered, like, obviously they play the game differently. Like NFL is different to rugby and rugby league. Rugby league and rugby union are probably more similar, particularly the ball playing elements of it. But I always think it would be cool to see more of like that rugby league style player, see what it is like up against that.
Yeah, well, there's been a couple of players that have transferred over and they do all right, but I don't know, you're competing against, kids that have been doing it their whole life, and then when they're getting drafted in, it's a huge thing for them.
Yeah.
So coming from international, I don't know, it's that sort of crossover with like good players going to be there, but they never really make it. They're with the good side, but they're not shining like they were in rugby.
Which makes sense, because it's obviously not to take anything, like, well, their sport is their sport, and it's like, it's no different to as you see like a rugby union player go to, or like a rugby league player go to a rugby union. They don't do as well as they do in the other game, or straight up at least. But the skills are probably a little bit more transferable than rugby to NFL.
Yeah.
One thing that they do get quite a few is from Australia is the kickers from AFL.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, for the field goals or whatever.
Yeah, okay. And they've probably got the right attribute as well. They're pretty tall, aren't they? In AFL.
Yeah, and good at kicking. It's such a weird sport like that there's just, you have just one kicker. He'll run on, kick the ball.
Kicks the ball, that's it.
It's so strange to think about when you play rugby or rugby league, because
you're used to just playing the whole game, or until you get subbed at least,
Yeah.
But it's such a strategic game, that NFL, they've got a certain amount of plays, you've got to remember everything. It's a little bit more than just the free-flowing game that we like.
Yeah, they're very, very much specialists in what they do. And
that's it. And each person's got a job, and that is your job. You're not expected to do anything else. If you're kicking the ball, just kick it over.
Kick it. Well, I guess that's why it's probably harder to get that carryover, because you're there for one thing and that's it. And those people who have been doing that one thing for 15 years, they're probably going to be better than you.
I've always grown up thinking I wouldn't mind playing that NFL.
Yeah.
But as I've got older, I just don't know if I'd want that whole warm up, like playing rugby. The pre-game sort of thing when you're doing your warm up.
Yeah.
Right up until like you're in the changing rooms, you're so fired up to get onto the pitch to go and like play and get all your frustration and your energy.
Take someone's head off.
If that's in the NFL, you're going on for your 5 minutes, and then everyone's coming off, and you're still raging on the side, like, what's going on here? Get me back on.
It would be hard, because the average time of play, I think it's only like 7 to 15 seconds or something like that.
Which
is crazy.
Like, but the game's 3 hours.
I know.
Is it?
Yeah.
Something
because
like
it's the broadcast, though. It's like, it's a spectator sport. It's a sport that they can advertise a lot on.
Yeah.
And that's
crazy. The Super Bowl, the amount of people that were watching that. God, I spent some time over in California, and usually the time I'm over there, the Super Bowl's on around the same time.
Yeah.
So, every screen in every bar's got it on. But every 2 seconds, there's an advert going on.
Yeah.
And whether or not these figures are true, but I hear, just to be broadcasting something like that is going to cost the company anything up to $1+ million just to be showing it on a Super Bowl, which wouldn't be bizarre if it was, but it's literally like flash on, flash off, and you're like, is that what I'm paying for?
Yeah, it's crazy, mate. One of my clients, he's a broadcast engineer, so he overseas, I think they do like 60% of tier 1 sport.
Okay.
So Super Bowl, Sunday Night Football, the World Cup, the Rugby World Cup, the Soccer World Cup, the Olympics and whatever. He's like the big dog at the top, overseeing all that sort of stuff. So he's just gone over for the Super Bowl. And he was telling me, I didn't realise, because when he said, I'm doing the Sunday Night Football, and I was like, so you're covering the whole NFL? And he said, no, we're just covering the Sunday Night Football, because it's broadcast on so many different stations over there, because they have Thursday night, Friday night. I don't think they have Saturday, because that's college.
Okay.
Sunday night, and then they have Monday Night Football.
Right.
And each one of those are split up to different TV broadcasters,
So they just have their one day and that's it.
One day and that's it. And then he does the Super Bowl because they're the biggest of it. But one thing they do, and it's one of the reasons why they probably get a lot of people to the games, is in some states they will not broadcast the game live unless the stadium is sold out.
Yeah, right.
So if you want to see your team play live, you have to go yeah. And if you're going to buy tickets, you're going to go buy food.
Yeah.
And you're buying food, you're probably going to buy some merchandise. And then you've got 100,000 people in the stadium all eating, buying merchandise, and then they sell the rights on top of that. And then they make so much more money.
Have you ever been up to the States?
No. We're going in January next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are going to go. So we're going from here to England, then England, Scotland, back to England, then England to New York.
Yeah.
And then just because I want to see, like, it's one of the things here in Australia is we just grow up seeing American TV. Yeah. American TV.
American TV.
Yeah. I just want to see that. I want to see what the movies are.
Yep.
And so I was like,
I guess it's kind of like that in the mornings. As a kid, you're growing up watching sort of Cartoon Network. Everything's American. But after that, Mum might be putting on something that's like Everybody Loves Raymond. How ironic.
Yeah, that's it. Everybody Loves Ray. Yeah, absolutely.
And Fraser or whatever else, but or Friends. Growing up watching Friends.
Everything's just so dependent. Like, I think it's the greatest country in the world. They're just their entertainment value from there, like, is outstanding. Like, there's so much wrong with it, but it just like, what would we laugh at if we didn't have an America?
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly.
All
it's
of
a pretty nuts place.
Yeah.
It's a pretty nuts place.
So we're going to go there, then I think we're going New York, Florida, trying to go to Cuba, which would be cool. Yeah. And then, so we're going to cold, get down to some sun, get some sun, then we'll go
on the Cubans.
Yeah, that's it, mate. And
whiskey in hand.
That's it. That's what we're going for. Big flowy t-shirt, flowy button
there
up.
You go.
And then want to get to California as well too. So we'll go Mexico, California. The big thing that I want to go see is the American Supercross.
Okay.
So like dirt bikes.
Yep.
That's my sport. So.
Oh mate, I can put you in touch with the perfect lad out there.
Really?
Yeah. Good friend of mine, actually, and he's mad for it.
Right.
He'll go from the mountains, away from the snow, right down to go and catch up with the Supercross. I think it goes on maybe in San Francisco or
cool.
Sacramento or something like that.
Yeah.
But he'll make the trip down, and he's always like, come on, let's go,
Yeah. Mate,
he's loose as a goose.
So good. So I grew up riding motocross bikes. Not that great, but like I haven't rode a motocross bike since I was like 15, I think. Saw a mate nearly kill himself hitting a tree.
Right.
And it kind of like scared me a little bit. And then they're expensive and stuff like that, so I never got back into it. But like as much as I like fitness, I like motocross far more. Like,
right.
I started riding when I was about 5 or 6, and that's just like bikes are the thing.
That's the thing.
That's why I've gotten into the mountain biking again.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, it's just as fast and just as dangerous, but there's a little bit less cost.
Yes.
And there's,
I always thought maybe it's just a kid thing as a boy growing up. Always used to beg my mum, can I have a motorbike? Can I have a motorbike growing up? Always wanted a dirt bike. She never ever got me one. It was probably the best for safety.
Yeah. Well, mate, they are like, I was lucky. I was always like a little bit too fearful on them, but I love it so much. Like, that's the sport. If I could ride every day, like I would. That's the thing that I want to, like I love. So, and now I watch it. I watch it every week. The races on Sunday, and they'll probably get sick of it.
I remember getting I didn't have one for real, so I remember just getting them on like the PlayStation 1, motocross, or PlayStation 2, whatever it came out on. But I remember always having those dirt bike games.
Yeah, I literally just bought a PlayStation 4 again so I could buy the Supercross. And so I can play the Supercross when I'm not watching the Supercross. So that's the goal. I want to get over there and see that. Like,
and that goes on in California, is it?
They do. So there's 2 series. So there's the Supercross, which is like the indoor stadiums.
Yep.
And that's like tighter tracks, and then it's all within the stadium. And then they have, I think, 17 rounds of that, and then there's 12 outdoors. So that's motocross. So most people know motocross. Supercross is motocross, but it's just in the arena.
Yep.
So it's a lot tighter and like kind of steeper jumps, whereas the outdoors that's where if you go to the track, you can't see the whole track.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. More like what downhill kind of is.
Yeah.
On a bike, where if you go to a downhill race, you see one section and that's it. Yeah. So the motocross is sick, but the supercross, you can be in the stadium and you can see every part of the track. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like almost like their stage show. Yeah. So that's what I want to see.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
So cool.
I've only ever seen something like, in stadium wise, like that indoors. Like the monster trucks. Mum used to take us as a kids. Used to be on in like one of the stadiums or something.
Yeah.
And that was always pretty cool.
Yeah, so cool, mate. I think it's hard not to like those sports. Like obviously everybody's gonna like it to a different degree, but it's cool.
It's
like,
just
like there's a bike going flat out over a jump that you can't even fathom how big it is.
Crazy.
Or like
they are nutters. Like I like the adrenaline side of things to an extent, but seeing those flying like a couple of 100 feet in snowboarding, I've hit jumps like 50, 55, maybe even a 60.
Yeah.
And that's big. You're like,
that's
whoa! And you're
huge,
coming in like...
Yeah, what, 60...
So imagine going on a bike, you're traveling some distance.
Yeah, 60 feet, that's like 20 meters or something like that.
Oh, God, don't test my maths here. I don't know how many feet to a meter.
3, something like that. 3 times. Yeah, we're not going
to... there you go then. That would make sense. But yeah, pretty big jump. And you need some pretty fast speed coming into it. Scary.
Yeah. That's crazy. So to talk a little, how did you get into the snowboarding?
Yeah, well, that's another crazy story. Nobody in my family ever goes skiing.
Yeah.
Me and all the boys for probably 6 years. We used to go away, like army boys. I'm talking here.
Yeah.
When I say the boys, say army boys.
Yeah.
Every single year we used to go on a summer holiday. And in the UK, there's a lot of things called like 18 to 30s holidays.
Yep.
And they're all like party destinations.
Yep.
So you'd be familiar with like the Ibiza
and
Magaluf.
Yep.
So you got all these different destinations, and we used to just select one, and as a big group of 10, 15 of us, we'd all just go and just crazy piss up for the week.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we got back from a tour of Afghanistan, which was a summer tour, and obviously there was no parties or no holidays that we usually go on.
Yeah.
It was around that time, so one of the boys came up with a crazy idea. They're like, "Oh, let's just go and do a winter holiday. Let's go to the snow sort of thing."
Yeah.
And being in the army, anything to do with cold weather, the boys will tell you, I hate it.
Yeah, right.
Passion,
Yeah.
You're getting in rivers where it's just got the ice sheet over. It's going down your top. Ice bath, playing rugby, like all these cold therapy things. I'm like, I'm not going to the snow.
Not for you. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And everybody booked onto this trip, and I was the last one.
Yeah.
I was like, do you know what? I haven't got anything else to do. The boys had decided to go on this holiday over Christmas and New Year. Let's jump on. So I jumped on last minute, and we went to a place called Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Mountain.
Did you find the guy that made the split squat? Hunt him down.
Hunt him down, mate. Hunt him down. The Bulgarian split squats.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody likes that exercise, do they?
I had a client actually, Cassette at work. She programmed Bulgarian split squats for the first time for
Don't tell
her.
me she loves it.
Yeah, and she was like, "Oh yes, Bulgarian split squats." I was like, "What? No one has ever said that."
Actually, I had
and then she complained after 2 sets of them. She's like, "I hate this." So
right, there we go. There we go. She's on this. I was going to say you haven't done enough.
Yeah.
I actually had somebody say to me they don't mind burpees the other day, and I was like, "Well, I'll give you a bunch of them if you want."
Yeah. Good luck. Yeah, right. So you went on the...
But first holiday that was in Bulgaria.
Yep.
A place called Borovets.
Yep.
Super cheap, mate. I think from the UK, I think we paid about 250 quid, and that was flights, 4-star hotel, half board, breakfast, and evening meal. I don't think we really ate. I think it was that bad, but it was on offer anyway.
Yeah.
And we had a great time, mate. Over the week that we were there. Pretty bad snowboarders.
Yeah.
The first day we were so eager on the snow. Didn't realise how slippery the thing was going to be. Strapped
makes
in.
Sense, yeah.
Knocked over a ski school of kids. Just like, oh God, here we go. Idiots have arrived.
Yeah. So you can understand when you were teaching this.
Yeah, exactly. Very annoying, but I couldn't really say much.
Yeah, and so how did you get from that to then pretty much being a professional snowboarder almost? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say he's a professional snowboarder, but on the teaching side of things, yeah, I can teach all levels.
Yeah.
Anything from sort of like your beginner right up to freestyle and off-piste, anything exploring the trees.
Yeah.
Being able to ride powder. Anybody looking to go to Japan?
Yeah.
Holler me.
Hit Ray
Take
up.
me with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, just sort of after doing my instructor courses in New Zealand.
Yep.
After that sort of holiday, got in the bug of it. Probably done about 3 or 4 holidays to France and Andorra.
Yep.
Really caught the bug, and me and a friend left the army, went to New Zealand, done the instructor courses, and then after that, that was it. Then just spiraled. Being able to travel, that's kind of really what I wanted after being in such a serious role in the army for a big majority of my young life. After that, then I was just like, right, I want to do the traveling, and this was another key element to just fund me moving around the world, you know. Yeah. So I was having a great time. And then obviously things then come to a halt with COVID and everything. Yeah. I was currently in California at that point. Donald Trump was like, right, everybody's got to go back to representative countries if you're not meant to be here.
Oh, so you were over there when COVID
I was over there working.
Yeah, right. How was that?
Well, to be honest, we thought it was just going to blow over. Yeah. Nobody knew what was coming on. No, nobody knew what was going on. But where we were up in the mountains, we were getting reports that, right, this case is now in San Francisco, huge city, of course, so it's going to spread there.
Fast,
Then it was coming up a little bit further, you know, El Dorado Hills, Sacramento, and then all of a sudden, then it was in Lake Tahoe where we were, and then the ski school were like, right, we need to shut down. It's like being told by government. So everybody needs to sort of, like, you know, prepare for the worst, you know, have a look at flights and whatever. And I thought, this is going to blow over. I didn't book a flight for 3.5 weeks. And then they started shutting down the city of San Francisco, like putting huge barricades in so nobody could, like, enter or leave the city. I was like, shit, I need to get a flight out of here. So just booked up and pretty much left that day. And then got stuck at home for 2 years. And that was first time then since 2013. No, 2014.
That you were at home? Yeah, right. So 2014 you come to...
2014, that's when I first went to New Zealand to do my instructor courses. That's when I left the army that year. And then, pretty much traveling and working around the world right up until COVID. Got stuck home then for 2 years.
How was that?
Trying to find a way. God. Difficult. Difficult.
Because, so where were you during COVID? Like at home, were you in?
So I had an apartment back home. Had that for probably 12 years. I literally just sold it last year. And usually that would be my grounding. I'd go back there. That's like my safekeep. But anytime I was away, it was just another source of income. And then this time during COVID, it was such a big hit. I was like, right, I need to start thinking about selling this as well, you know? Especially with me not being there. I had it for such a long time, and I probably lived in it. You could probably count in 1 year. You know, the amount of days that I probably spent in that place over the 12 years.
So that would be weird for you not moving around.
It was a bit strange. So I ended up moving after. Well, I stayed there for the duration, but you know, any times I've had to go back, then I'm back in Mum's house, you know, in my old bedroom. And it doesn't look as big as what it used to be.
It's crazy.
It seems like it's shrunk as we've got older.
Perspective, because so when you went from in 17 into the army, were you then like out of home living in the army?
That was me, that was me out of home then from the age of 17 right through until 24. And
so when you're in the army, how long so you'd be obviously off on tour, how long would you be at home or like back in the UK?
Like during tour
or like that period? The whole time.
So pretty much Monday to Friday. You're away. You'd have your weekends to yourself to come home.
Right. Okay.
Pretty much. When you look back at it, away from sort of like the seriousness of going away on tour. It's probably one of the easiest jobs in the world. Because when you break it down, you probably only work about 3.5 days a week. Monday's kind of a late start because after the weekend, we don't usually start till 10, 11. Tuesday's usually a full day. Wednesday's a sports afternoon. I always played rugby, so you've only got the couple of hours in the morning doing anything in kit. Thursday was a full day, and then Friday was half day because you'd be knocking off to go home. So
yeah, right. So
away from going on tour, it was a super easy job.
So they talk about discipline and hard work. You guys are just bludgeoning and taking it.
I mean, you know, as long as you're on top of things.
Yeah.
But basic field craft skills and, you know, staying out in the field and doing these exercises where you'd be out in like the woodlands. Us in the infantry, that was our bread and butter, you know. Yeah. So when we needed to do a job, it was generally going on exercise or high level of fitness training, long durations of fitness training as well, especially before going away on tour, you know. For most people, leaving sort of like your first basic training, when you first enroll into the army, you've got that 6 month of training you from a civilian to a soldier. Generally, when you leave that, you're like the fittest you've ever been because you've gone from A to B sort of thing. Yeah. And then going from that, then during your career, if you haven't been or you're not in the rotation to be going on tour or anything, you'll literally be stuck around camps, probably doing odd jobs. But we were in such a strict rotation where we were going every 2 years. Yeah. But that means you were doing pre-deployment training for 6 months prior to that, you know, and that's very intense. Yeah. Could be 2 hours, 3 hours. And closer to the time, you know, you're carrying around a backpack that's got 25 kilos in it for the sake of just get used to carrying weight on your back every single day, all day. So it's pretty vigorous and it gets very intense. And you need to keep on top of your fitness. And if you don't, that's when you're going to start to struggle. So lucky for me, I was somewhat naturally fit.
In that, do you know when you're going to be going on tour, or are you just kind of waiting orders? Like,
well, like I said, you'd be on sort of like as an infantry battalion, we were on a 2-year rotation. And there'll be X amount of regiments that will deploy in and around that space and time. But as time went on, you know, and over that 10-year stint that the British Army were there, people were getting taken out of rotation. And that might have been, you know, due to some seriousness that might have gone on or some sort of training issues, whatever it may be. But that meant we were getting fastballed in sooner, you know, so it wasn't always 2 years. You know, I went in 2009, and I was back in 2010, 2011, 2013. So it wasn't exactly every 2 years, you know. Even though it was meant to be.
Okay.
So 21 months of my life I've actually spent out in Afghanistan.
Wow. That's
crazy. You're only meant to do 6 month tours, and I ended up getting stuck out there for one of my tours, which was 9 months.
And that was the one you were talking about when you got on the plane and you were in the cargo carrier.
Funny enough, that was pretty crazy. So that was in 2010, I believe, when the volcanic ash clouds erupted from Iceland. They stopped all aviation flights. I was actually finishing a 6 month tour in Afghanistan then, meant to be coming home, and we were in Camp Bastion, all weapons being bundled up, like literally on the last stages of going home. Family, friends, everything's getting exciting, and then all of a sudden you're getting the orders saying, boys, you're going back out on the ground, you're needed. And that's the last thing you want, you know, and you're seeing the weapons coming back to you, and you're like, what is going on here? Another 3 months.
And was that your last tour, or?
That was actually my second tour. Was that my second tour? Yeah, second tour.
And then you went back after.
I went again after that.
Wow.
And the only way they got, like you were just saying, then the only way they got us out was on a huge cargo plane. You're lying on top of it. The ceiling's here. The ceiling's literally right there, and you just like slide yourself at the end of the cargo to go for a piss at the end of the aircraft. You know what I mean? And then you're climbing back up onto the luggage, lie yourself down for the duration until you get to your destination.
So if you sit in economy now, mate, it's like
economy is luxury to that stuff.
That's wild. I didn't realize that you went back after that. I thought that was one of your last.
Oh yeah, I went back again in 2013. It was my last tour.
What's it feel like going back after you've been there before?
Well, you kind of know what to expect after that. The eeriness is beforehand when you're sort of like doing the training. You're like, are we actually going again, sort of thing. But then it's sort of ingrained in you. You've had so much training.
Yeah.
There's everybody around you that's like real keen.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
And the ones that aren't keen, they get shipped off somewhere because you don't need that around.
Yeah.
That negative. So
Yeah.
everybody around you is like keen for the role and the job. So you're just in that mindset.
Yeah.
You know. But the first time you go in, you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And
What was that like going in the first time?
How old was I? I was just turned 19. Literally just turned 19 on my first tour, and nobody can prepare you. You know, you only hear from people that have been before.
Yeah.
And I was with a very experienced group of lads, so they had done stints of Iraq, stints of Northern Ireland,
Yeah.
Kosovo, Bosnia, and then it was Afghanistan. So I was around a very experienced group of lads, and you know, you'll hear stories and stuff like that, but you need to witness it yourself, right?
Yeah.
But lucky for me, that turned me into sort of like being a good soldier.
Yeah.
And everybody's working hard for each other, you know? But
Yeah.
that first flight going there, all the lights black out on the plane, and you've never experienced anything like it. Like, you don't see a single light. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You can't see the person next to you. Helmets have got to go on. Body armor's got to go on. And the next half an hour, it's complete silence.
Yeah.
Not a single person saying a word.
Yeah, right. And so, would you always go in at night, or for and that's,
anything going in or out was always at night time.
Yeah.
Obviously, risk of being seen or shut down. So
Yeah.
everything was leaving and coming in at night.
Yeah, right. That's
Crazy,
Yeah,
crazy when you think about it. But when you're doing operations, when you're like in Afghan, obviously you're on the Chinooks and stuff like this. That's all, you know, daylight. You're out on operations then, but anything serious, and when they're doing intel and stuff, Apaches and everything are out at night, you know. They've got the night vision to see. We'll be patrolling and moving a lot at night as well.
Yeah.
Setting up ambushes, but a lot of movement at night is probably the safer, but you do have the risk of IEDs.
Yeah.
So for us, that was obviously the biggest issue.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Like it's hard to fathom, because I think it's just hard to fathom as a normal person.
Mate, I completely with you. It's crazy just hearing it come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And because it was such a big part and so many years of my life that I've done it, even when I'm telling the story and everybody's like, yeah, that's crazy, you know? I'm like, I know. I know it's crazy.
Yeah. Wild.
And I'm just so thankful that I am here.
Yeah,
to
of
be able
course.
to,
Yeah.
you know, express and talk about it.
Yeah.
And, you know, just show expression of interest to people that, you know, that wouldn't necessarily get to hear or see this.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, you know, I never go out and start speaking about it, but if, you know, people hear that you're in the army, you know, I'll always give them the benefit of the doubt and have a chat with them.
Yeah. Because I think it's one of those things that you can't even fathom. The closest that most people get to it is Call of Duty or whatever it is like that. And it's like you've done that for real, which is just mind-boggling to think. Like, I have so much respect for it, because you just can't even fathom. Like, see people talk about, you know, whatever, like training in the gym might be hard, or playing a sport might be hard, and it is relatively hard to what that person might know. But how does that change? That would have to change your perspective at some point, or would have changed your perspective. How do you see? Do you see things differently now because of that? Like, what's hard is not that hard, or
I don't know whether it's a good trait to have,
because
everything I look in life, I'm like, I always strive to be sort of better. I'm like, oh, that shouldn't be as hard as it is. It's got to be easier, which definitely on a positive side.
Yeah.
But then I can look at things. You know, I've been in some jobs, you know, just knockoff jobs that I'm in and out of, and I'm like, how is he in charge of me?
Yeah.
And like, I know you shouldn't have that concept, but I'm just like, I should be striving for something bigger than this, you know. And then I always found that, like I said before, just really rewarding, just working with people.
Yeah.
And finding the progression and being able to upskill somebody from your experience, you know. And I've really liked it. I've liked it when I was in the army. I've liked the younger soldiers. I've liked it in the snowboard world, and now, like, you know, I've done it in the boot camps. I've done it in the PT world. So everything's sort of interlocked like that for me.
Absolutely, yeah. And because it's obviously such a formative experience for you, particularly at an age where you are growing into being an adult and stuff like that, you would have.
I'll tell you what, though, it's going from, like, everything in my life is, and you hear it when you're going for, like, job interviews, how would you work as a team and stuff. Everything I've done has always been as a team sort of thing. being a rugby
Yeah.
team,
Yeah.
being in the army, being in like your sections, your platoons, whatever it is. Snowboarding was probably the only thing which I was completely isolated.
Yeah.
It was just me and the group that I'm teaching. And even when you're just riding with your mates,
Yeah.
it's great to have everybody around, but it's a solo sport, and you probably feel like that with the motocross and the downhill biking and stuff. It's fun to have that adrenaline with your mates, but you're solo.
For sure.
Nobody's having that same line as you. You're picking your own line, seeing what's on. You know? But then coming into like the PT world, I really like hearing somebody's sort of like initial goal.
Yep.
And then that quickly changes because we might have already reached that sooner than they've liked, or they've realised now they've started training, there's a new goal. But I always say to people, like, have a reason for why you're training.
Yep.
And the ones that are just like, most people are, right, okay, I want to lose weight, especially in the gen pop.
Yeah.
I'd like to lose weight. And then there's these all crash diets, and you can do this quick. Yep, let's go for 4 to 6 weeks, go from X weight to X amount, and yep, sweet, done. But then you don't ever get anything from that.
Yep.
So I try and, with my clients, talk about like the longevity stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, we can lose the weight real quick, or put the muscle on real quick. But what are you going to do after that?
Yep.
Are you going to have the knowledge to continue training?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to find which type of training you enjoy? I'm only putting across X, Y, Z. We can spam well further than this and find out what you really enjoy.
Yeah.
So, I try and get clients, or try and change my clients into having that mindset.
Yeah.
And not just come in with, I just want this to look good for the Mardi Gras that's in a couple of months. You see the gym is crazy at the minute, after the new year. I thought it was going to die off, but here we are, 8 days into February.
I know, mate. Actually, that's a good segue. So that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about. So like this time is particularly, unless you're getting ready for Mardi Gras, it's probably one of the harder times because all the excitement of the New Year's resolution has worn off.
Yep.
It's really easy to have a thought, like a goal or a New Year's resolution is a thought, and that's easy. Like we come up with some mad thoughts right now. Yeah. I want to be a trazillionaire. That's a good thought, but putting it into practice is a very different thing. And I find that clients get to this period of this time of the year where I think we are 6 weeks in, and it gets hard now. And like the habit that you said that you're going to nail is much harder now. And so what do you think people could do better or work on to help stick to their goals and do it long term and go for that longevity?
Well, let's break it down. Like for me, everything I've ever done in my life has always been active.
Yep.
I said before that I've played rugby for 15, 20 years of my life. I went to the gym because of that.
Yeah.
So for that aspect, I needed to be quick. So I had to work on agility and speed and my power. I needed strength then for the game when I was getting better and making it into the top squads and stuff. So train was always around that. And then I was in a job which was really active as well, which was the army. So being in an active job, it was easy to then skip the gym because you'd be tired. You've just been for a couple of miles run.
Yeah.
You might have just done an 8-mile march with some weight. You still then got to find the love to go to the gym for my personal side of wanting to play rugby. That type of training isn't going to get me fit on the pitch to play rugby. For me, it's always trying to find why I'm going to the gym. What's the reason? So for me, it was playing rugby then. Then it was somewhat, training towards the army. Make sure you're strong enough for the role that you're doing. Leaving that, then winter sports into snowboarding. While I was in that and the experience I was getting over the years, a lot of people were dealing with lower limb injuries, especially skiers, ACLs, MCLs, all of those sort of ligaments. They would be going. Collarbones for snowboarders, wrists. So injury prevention and stuff like that. Putting into implementing strength exercises for skiers in the lower body. Snowboarders, sure, too, because you're in that sort of half squat position. But you need to know how to brace a fall and be able to take something.
And have muscle mass to take the fall as well too. If you got no muscle mass,
well, there you go.
That's it. Like
muscle mass as well.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's what we want.
Yeah, but that all goes hand in hand. And
goes in hand. But to be honest, you'll see the best snowboarders. They don't have that much muscle mass.
Not. But having some at least,
would definitely help there.
Because if you're not active, you probably won't have that much muscle mass.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a really, really cool point as well too. I was talking to Billy about it last week, and he's and I guess probably a lot of us are of the very similar mindset of, one, we've probably done it for a long period of time. So I think, like, from an identity standpoint, we can't not train, because if we're not training,
It's just ingrained in us.
It's ingrained in you. And so, like, from one perspective, we are lucky like that, because some of our clients don't have that past experience. Obviously, we've put ourselves in that, or, you know, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But we're lucky to have trained for a long period of time. So the days that we don't train, like you were saying before, you should have trained earlier.
Yeah.
It happens as well too. I think that's one thing that people probably think as trainers is like, oh, cool, you just know how to train, you always train, you won't be tired. Like, those days happen where you're like, I missed my session this morning, I'm going to get it in this afternoon. And you'll hit some pretty late sessions, I've seen as well too.
Yeah. Well, they're pretty long at the minute.
Yeah.
But it's funny when I get the client going, oh, well, how'd you get like that then, right? And I'm like, it doesn't come overnight.
No.
The training that you're doing now, that I've got you doing,
Yeah.
you need to do that for a while.
Yeah, for a long time.
You know,
yeah.
and you'll get there. It's not as quick as just doing it for a month or so.
That's it. And, like, being in really good shape is the byproduct of 5, 10, 15 years of constant
and
training.
being able to train at a good speed and a good progressive overload, that you're not getting into those injuries.
Yes.
You're not pushing yourself too far. You know, understand your form and your technique going into the exercises, and not rush forward too much. You know, it's so common that we hear it now in our role, that somebody who just wants to put the weight on a little bit more, or you haven't done a proper warm-up, for example, and then you're wondering why there's little niggling injuries. And we're hearing the physios that are, you know, pretty much working hand in hand with most of us and clients, you know.
And that's one of the things. It's like, people have that impatience, but they have the impatience for the outcome so much that they just only focus on that and not necessarily the process. That if you are impatient, cool, work harder, do it more, do your warm-up, like, don't miss that, because that's part of it. And if you want to get to that result, do that warm-up, because it's going to get you there faster. So, you know, all those sort of things that I think people are like, oh, I just want to be at that goal, which makes sense, but everybody wants to see your results yesterday.
And everybody says the training's the easy part.
Yeah.
It's when you start talking that linked in with your nutrition.
Yeah.
That's where people fall off the bandwagon. You can be the best trainer in the world. You can do all the training. But if you're not eating right, you can't expect to have the goal that you're asking for.
No.
It might come, but it might come very long down the line, you know?
Well, I had a client last year say the same, like, on that same note, that it was unnatural for her to eat the way that we were trying to work. And we weren't doing anything crazy. It was like, we got her from eating, like, I think 16 to 1700 calories up to like 2-4, and she was losing weight in that time. And she's someone who will train a few days a week and train really, really hard. And she was, we worked her up to that point where she had to eat more because she wanted to push performance. And she's like, it's unnatural for me to eat like this. And I was like, well, yeah, it is, because like, what we ask from our body in some way is unnatural. Like, your body doesn't want to deadlift.
And we're forever trying to convince people this is what you need to do.
And it like, we teach good things, so it's not bad, but it is unnatural for our body to want to do those things. Like, it just wants to rest and chill out. And if you're wanting to push, you know, all the things you would have done for your rugby, for your army, you know, for your bodybuilding, is unnatural. Like, human body is not want to do that.
Exactly.
But if we
have that adequate rest as well to go with it.
Yeah, that's the thing. But we want to fuel it for that activity, which is really, really cool, but it's still unnatural in itself. So that nutrition, even though we're eating good foods, we're eating protein, we've got good carbs and stuff like that, but eating to that, and you've had that recently, we're trying to eat up as well too, haven't you?
Well, for me, I've said it. I've always said it. I struggle to put the weight on, which a lot of people would love to probably take that trait. But it's actually a harder task than you think. You know, as hard as people find losing weight, for me, it's trying to keep the weight on. And it's strange because always playing rugby, I've always been sort of that 85, pushing it to sort of like 90 kilos, probably running around at like 82, 83 comfortably, you know. Now, since I've stopped playing rugby, I can't even get up to 82, 83. That's
Yeah,
where I'm
right.
trying to get to now, you know?
What do you think that is? Because you would have been running a lot more then. Yeah,
I
sure.
honestly think it was probably just the amount of activity I was pushing growing up. Like, I was playing rugby, you know, I'd be playing for a club side back home, and I'd be playing for, you know, rugby in the army. So I'd be playing 2 games a week, every week,
Yeah.
for however many years, training 4 or 5 times a week, plus the military training on top of that training. This was going on for 8, 9 years, you know? So I just think the amount of food I was putting in, even though my size was like I was bulky,
Yeah.
I was also very fit.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas now I've not needed to do that much activity,
Yeah.
but trying to put the food in that I used to,
Yeah.
I just can't. And
do
now
it.
my weight is just static at probably
Yeah.
around 78, 79-ish.
Crazy.
Which is crazy.
And that's the thing. Like, it's unnatural for you to want to try and eat that amount of food. Like, even though you're not doing anything bad.
Simple sugars,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I said to that client. And I was like, you're gonna have to get some, like, you know, carb powder, Gatorade,
yeah.
some gummy bears or whatever.
Yeah,
Like, if you're struggling to get the carbs in, like, obviously on the flip side of that, it's annoying for a client who wants to lose weight to hear that, because
exactly.
it's the other way around. And both are just as hard as each other, though.
Yes.
It's just that, yeah, being uncomfortably hungry and being uncomfortably full, like, they're obviously two ends of the spectrum, but they're just as hard.
And are you used to your calorie drop at the minute?
I'm getting there, getting used
there?
to being hungry. I'm down now 83, so I think 83.2 maybe this morning. And
Okay.
so I'm down 9 kilos from the
9
powerlifting
kilos,
comp.
yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so that was
How do you feel like that? Do you still feel strong? Do you feel weak?
I feel real weak now.
Yeah, okay, okay.
But then it was good because I felt strong and I hadn't pushed it that hard for a long period of time, and not tried to gain body fat. But for me, it like, as I was overweight as a kid, so I can gain body fat faster.
Okay.
So it's quite hard for me to. It's easy once I get into the habit of it, and like being on, like, I'm never not on point with my nutrition, but on where I need to be for my calories, and then adding a bit more cardio, the stepper in and stuff like that. But getting down to, like, I've been like unhealthy levels of lean, like veins on my abs and shit like that for a photo shoot and stuff. And I can maintain that, but that's a hard push for me to get there.
Okay.
But once I get there, it's easy. Like
Do you find the maintenance okay then once you're there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's quite easy. And what I'll do for that is I usually like to fast for that.
Yep.
Whereas you'd be on the opposite end of it. You almost need to get
This is probably one of the things why I find it hard to put the weight on. I'm having to really not force, but be conscious of when I need to be putting the meals in, because, you know, if I'm not training or anything like that, I could wake up, and I wake up fairly early anyway.
Yeah.
But I could wake up, check the laptop on, check some emails or something, and maybe not have anything for the first hour or two that I've been awake.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a coffee, caffeine sort of stops that. But yeah, I'm trying to get sort of like loaded shakes in the morning.
Yeah.
About 1,100, 1,200 calories there.
Yes,
so you'll probably see me drinking that over a duration of a couple of hours usually.
Get a knife and fork with your shake there, mate.
But that'll fill me up for about 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
And then I'm not having, you know, I'll have there maybe some simple carbs in between.
Yeah.
Just to keep the energy levels up. And then I'll have, you know, just my usual meal at 12.
Yeah.
Then it's probably, you know, around that training time. So
Yeah.
after that, Lately, I've just been having the craving for pancakes.
Yeah, fair.
Great carbs.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever dabbled in with it. Rice flour?
Yeah. I've kind of got to be gluten free, so you've used it before for pancakes.
Well, I like to just sort of throw that in with the pancakes, just to bump my carbs up. So I'll have like 350 grams of pancakes,
mostly
50 grams of rice flour as well.
Well, it's just ground up rice, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's probably easier.
And I'll have that, you know, pre or post training.
Yeah.
With then some simple carbs.
Yeah.
And that's just keeping me ticking over with the amount of calories I'm putting in. You
so
know?
How many calories now at the moment?
Well, it's on the down at the minute now. So I'm putting in 3,005.
Yeah.
But it was in the 3,7 plus.
Yeah.
You know, for a while before that, at least probably 3-4 months.
Yeah.
Say before that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is kind of on 3.5, and it's only going to start getting lower and lower. But we're hoping to keep it above 3,000 or 3,000. You know, we don't really want to get below that if we can.
Yeah, so you stay nice and full. So, and obviously we had mentioned that you're prepping for a show at the moment, yeah?
Yeah. First men's physique show.
Yep. And
Aiming for the end of April.
Yep. So how many weeks that? What, 8, 9?
Yeah, not long.
Yeah.
Not long. What's that, 2 months, 2.5 months?
Yeah.
That's what we're aiming for. I just really want to have a different start to the year, you know? Different new goals. I love what you're doing here with the podcast and stuff. And for me, after sort of that COVID, not having anything to go towards like goal-wise, I get a little bit stagnant and I don't really know what I'm doing. So for me, I remember last year I was like, I'm an hour and about a show. My old man has done loads of shows. Yeah. My brother currently just done his first show last November.
You could almost get all three of you on stage at once. That'd be
well, this is kind of what we had a chat about before as well. They would love to come out to Australia as well and do a show.
Yeah.
And that would be awesome if the three of us were out here doing it.
Yeah.
Especially if we all sort of got placed and done well.
Imagine 1, 2, 3, who'd win?
Well, I'd like to say me, but the old man's looking pretty good for his age.
Yeah. How old is he now?
Oh God, you put me on now. I think he's 54.
Yeah, and he's still competing.
That's nuts. In real good shape, better shape than me. Me and all the boys back home. You know,
that's wild. So you can actually say my dad's stronger than yours.
Yeah.
My dad's stronger than yours.
Use that.
Yeah. That's crazy. That'd be really cool to see if you could all imagine that.
Yeah, but I'm quite excited for it. To be honest, it's been tough. And I haven't given myself sort of the long periods that most people would.
Yeah.
Like, I know my brother, after having that show, he's now on a bulk for 9 months.
Yeah.
You know, so he's really taking his time of just getting the food and getting up to the size that he wants. I'm doing the bulk and cut in 6 months.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But going off like 2 12-week blocks.
Yep. Yeah, cool. And then will you? How are you finding that process? Do you think you'll see it out and go? You'll see this obviously process out, but do you reckon you'll go on to do it longer or?
I kind of just live by the moment, you know, with things. I like the competitive side of things.
Yeah.
And I haven't had anything competitive since I stopped playing rugby.
Yeah.
So this has just sort of got that fire in my stomach again to really sort of push myself hard.
Yeah.
And just see where we can push the levels. But not only that, but to sort of enjoy the process with like the knowledge side of things as well. Because if I do, this is where I'd like to start taking the business. You know?
Cool.
And start moving towards, you know, people that really want to get that aesthetic look and maybe push themselves towards shows and you know, I just got to try and understand and enjoy the whole process, not just for myself, but, you know, how I would put people through this process as well in future.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously having done, well, you know, the physical training, but prepping for something like that, or even like doing a photo shoot, you're going to get uncomfortable, like more uncomfortable than just
normal,
you know, just getting like in a little bit good shape for a holiday or something like that. Like it's an uncomfortable process. So tell me, where's your training at the moment? What does it look like?
Training at the moment, hypertrophy training, but lots of volume. I haven't really hit big numbers until, you know, since last year when we were doing those like comps and stuff.
Benched everybody.
And funny enough, my weight when it's fluctuating, doesn't matter if I'm going up or down, my strength somewhat stays kind of balanced, which I'm grateful for. You know, I don't really feel too weak.
Yeah.
But it's more the mindset. Like I couldn't picture myself going on the bench now and going, right, let's put 150 on, 150. I couldn't think of that, but probably would be able to get it.
Yeah.
But at the minute, 4 sets pretty much is like a minimum. If I ever see something with a 3 set, it's like I've won the lottery. Luke, I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. What's wrong with you, Luke? What have you done?
Luke, what's going on here? You made a mistake, yeah. And if he's like accidentally not put the day up, I'll just keep it quiet, mate. I'll be like, day off today, is it? Text him later saying, oh, I've already left.
Yeah. Come on, Luke.
Then he's got me on a Sunday. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
But training's probably roughly around sort of like an hour and a half sessions. And then sort of like putting the Stairmaster, that's like my best friend at the minute, just slow and tedious, just getting that body fat sweating.
Yeah.
Getting the fat crying.
How much, definitely, mate, that machine makes you just up there in the corner at the
Just
gym.
in the corner.
Yeah.
There's nothing glamorous about it. You one step at a time, you're staring at a brick wall.
A red brick wall. They need to turn it around. It'd be quite cool to sit up there and just...
Well, every now and then I'm looking over my shoulder, like, what's going on in the gym now?
Have you fell off it yet? I've noticed slipped a couple times.
I actually had a crazy scenario. I was only on it for probably about 6 minutes, but I just finished a pretty vigorous session.
Yeah.
And I had the worst case of cramp in my adductor here.
Yeah.
That I just fell off. And there was a woman there was a woman stretching behind the little cage thing there, looking at me, and I had the headphones, and I couldn't say anything. I was about to scream. It was that painful.
Yeah, right.
And my leg was just stuck in that sort of half bent position.
Yeah.
I couldn't straighten it. Couldn't bend it anymore. And I'm thinking, like, if this gets like any more than where it's at right now, it's just coming out.
Yeah.
And I sort of like one leg hopped over to the floor, just laid there, and I just couldn't move for 20 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Just until it sort of eased off of it. But the first thing I thought when I came off that Stairmaster was like, where's Danny?
Yeah.
I need some stretching.
Yeah, need some stretching. That's mad, mate. You're we've got 15 minutes left on the battery. Of all that, it sounds like that's almost the worst injury you've had on the Stairmaster.
That's about it. That's about it.
You got snowboarding in the army, rugby, and then the Stairmaster brings you undone.
Stairmaster ended me like that. But to be fair, in the snowboard world, in terms of injuries, that's probably where they've mostly come from. Both shoulders.
Yeah, right.
Just because you're on that side-on approach. Anytime you're into freestyle, that's where it comes from, mate. You know, being that adrenaline junkie, doing stupid shit, mate. The minute you're going off the jump and you're in the air, you better land on your feet, you know, or you're hitting, sliding on metal.
Well, and that's the thing with snowboarding. I guess like that you can't good thing about biking, you can get like a little bit of a whip in there, and that's
cool. Mate, don't give me that. Those guys are crazy.
You're doing backflips and stuff. You did a backflip when you went down the Rob, didn't you?
Yeah. I was still finding my feet, and the conditions were real wet and slushy, mate. But I was like, still, you got to test yourself. I've probably done about 100, but every single time I go and do one, it's still as scary as the first time.
I bet, mate. I bet. Yeah, going upside down, that's definitely...
It's just putting everything together. It's not just the trick in the air, but you've got to judge the speed. It'd be the same on a bike, You don't want to knuckle. You don't want to come off short. Yeah. You don't want to go off too fast and overshoot the thing. Yeah. And then during the rotation... Are you on axis or off axis?
Yeah. Mate, speaking of hitting the knuckle off a jump, and I'm sure it's pretty similar with snowboarding, and just that dead sailor feeling, like when you clip the knuckle, like you've jumped and then bounced off the knuckle, and then you just like, I'm a passenger.
You just wait for impact.
Yeah. Whatever happens.
I've had a few scary ones on the bike, because in Wales we've got loads of tracks, mate. It's full of nature, and me and the boys would go and. Those tabletops, I don't know whether it's the steepness of it or whether I'm like pushing into it or something, but it just bucks me. And I'm just, over the handlebars I go.
No, you gotta loosen up, mate. You gotta
I'm
keep
better
your
on
loose.
something that's not so steep and you can just send it. But the minute I see something steep, I get anxious going up to it, and I knew what's coming, and it's like, here we go.
Well, I guess it's probably very similar but different, like, because the bike will go and you've got to, like, if you stiffen up or you're too loose,
just gotta let it go, right?
You've got to let it go, but it's a hard thing to get used to. Like, it's one of those things. I talk to Rob about it all the time. Like, I'm not the best, particularly right now, but I jumped a lot as a kid, and it's just one of those things that, like, I can't really explain it because you just do it. Like, I did it when I was 5, and I just have done it since. So it's I've actually been teaching Mel how to ride a little bit, so it's been quite interesting to think about what I do and how
to break it down and say this is what you got to do.
Yeah, but it's also hard as well too, because I guess it's probably similar with snowboarding. That you're going at a speed, like there's going to be some speed about it.
Yeah.
And there's some elements of it that are just seem uncontrollable.
The thing is, the more comfortable you get, you realise speed's your friend.
Yes.
In those scenarios.
Yeah.
But it's so scary getting that encouragement to go faster, and you might be ready to go into the next trail. Now this trail's got that jump you need to go.
Yeah.
So you might be able to get down.
Yeah.
Now you need to hit that.
Yeah, those the brake taps, like that's what pulls you up. Because if you're just flying down a trail and you're just about to hit something and you tap the brakes and then you just wipe off all your speed, then
Yeah,
you're gonna lose it.
That's it.
One thing that got me initially was, particularly with mountain biking, is just the real janky stuff, like the rocks, like flying into a rock garden just seems so unnatural. Talk about unnatural.
Yeah.
It's just because on a motocross bike you don't really do that. Like, you might get rocks every now and then, but you're predominantly dirt and sand and stuff like that. So you have ruts that'll be rough, but you won't be like jumping into a rock garden. But it's such a strange. It's one of the coolest feelings. There's one trail that we go to out at Mill Creek. It's called Methane Alley, and it's like probably 400 meters, and from top to bottom it's about a minute, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah,
like you're hooking in, and you come down the end of it and you jump off. There's just like a little single into a rock garden, and you're hitting it at probably 40 k's an hour, just straight through it. But when you trust the bike and you trust the suspension, and I'm sure it's the same with snowboarding, like that has
trust your kit,
trust
yourself, and you'll be all right. But carrying that speed, I've had some, you say that, and I've had some sketchy falls, mate. I've come in down like hitting a berm too fast and just gone straight over the berm.
Top,
Whoa! Yeah. There we go.
That's where your brakes
airborne.
Yeah. Did Rob tell you what happened with Kate the other day? With the no brakes?
Oh, I don't know if you mentioned it now.
So we're at Mill Creek, where I was just talking, there's another trail. It's called Hit the Terps, and it's like a flow trail.
Okay.
And Rob said to Kate, he said, don't use your brakes in the corners. He said it meaning go slower so you can go around the corners without using your brakes. But she just went, sweet, no brakes. And she got up to like 38 k's an hour or something like that. Got to then and was like, that seemed really out of control. And he's like, yeah, it was. You were going far too fast. He's like,
it's the only way you're going to learn, I suppose.
Sure, yeah, that's it.
Have you ever been to Queenstown?
No,
New Zealand?
No, I've got a client there, and he rides the trails there.
One of my favourite places. But the downhill biking track there, that was probably the first time where I really got into it.
Yeah,
I've done it a bunch of times at home after that.
Yeah,
but I used to work for Quicksilver with a Norwegian lad, and he was really into his downhill biking, and he had two bikes. He was like, "Yeah, come along."
Yeah,
and I just picked things up pretty quick. You know, just give it a try, let's go. And he was like, yeah, bro, you got this. Yeah. Picking things up real quick. So he was like, let's go on this. And he was just like, whatever you do, just stay on my tail.
Yeah.
He said, I won't fall.
Yeah.
Just stay close. Yeah. And the first turn we went, it was probably about as high as this roof. Straight off, mate, into a boat. And I was nosediving, thinking, I've killed myself. And I was on a huge sus. And it was the first time I just rode out thinking, what the just happened? And I was like, yeah, that was it then. I was like, loving this.
Yeah. It's good fun, and it's one of those things as well, like that if you stay on someone's tail, it is, and if you just trust that.
If you trust them, well, I said that to Rob snowboarding.
Yeah. But, well, he would get it as well, too, because he's, like, it's the same, I've followed him a few trails, the ones that I can keep up with him on, and then I'm like, oh, I see what he did there, and I just can follow that.
Follow that line.
And trust the bike, and as long as you don't do anything stupid in the air, like, you should be all right.
Should be all right.
Yeah,
should be all right.
No, Queenstown is one of the ones on the list I want to go to.
Oh, mate, it's beautiful. And even though the trails are awesome, I think you've got about 40 to 50 trails to be taken.
Yeah.
You've just got the backdrop view, which is stunning of Queenstown as
and
well.
And all the trails sort of go down to the town.
Yeah, right into the town. And it's only a small town, so when you're looking from above, looking down at it, beautiful.
Mate, it sounds like paradise to me.
Beautiful.
Bikes and bike trails and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to one in Orange in next week. So I got 2 weeks off, and there's a trail called the Trail of Awesomeness. It's 8 k's long. It takes 20 minutes from top to bottom, and it's just flow trail, like for 20 minutes.
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
But the only issue...
How'd you get up there?
So I'm going to have to ride, because I'm going to be there on like a Wednesday or a Thursday, so there's no shuttles.
This is when those e-bikes come in.
Yeah, I know. I ragged on the e-bikes for a long period of time, and then I had to eat my words and say I want to get an e-bike now.
Yeah.
Because one of the things...
I was the same.
Yeah. One of the hard things with mountain biking is you've got you know, like you might have a 5 to 15 minute climb to the top for a 60-second descent.
Yeah. And you're like, what the hell was that for?
Yeah. And you just can't get
And you've had so much fun in that 1 minute.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, is it worth going up there now for another half an hour hike?
Yeah, I know, mate. And so I went out to Mill Creek, I was mentioning earlier. It was just after the Christmas party, and I was like, cool, I'm just going to session a trail, because when Rob and I go, we'll like go from one side of the park to the other and then back, and we'll hit a couple trails, maybe once or twice, but we'll never do like 5, 10 or whatever sessions. And we're going to lose the screen here in a second, but that's all right. And I was like, cool, I'm going to session this trail. And it was the 60-second one with jumping into the rock garden at the end, and I was getting better and better and better. But it was like a 10-minute trek to the top, and it wasn't a steep hill, but it's just enough, enough,
to be like, it's on the legs, it's on the lungs,
and you just get to that critical point where you're like, oh, I'll do one more, and the one more is when you're most tired, and then you just, you know, you miss a break going into a corner, and you're just like,
you're getting tired, your forearms are burning, your fingers are cramping up.
Yeah, and so that's not like because you could do 20 minutes flat out on a motocross bike and just keep going round and round and round and round and round. And so that's the thing that I miss as well, because I initially was like, I won't get I don't need an e-bike, I'm fit enough, but I don't want to do mountain biking for the fitness. I want to do it for the jumping and the climbing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll have an e-bike at some point, I reckon.
To be honest, mate, they're both roughly around the same pricing, you know?
Yeah.
You can get a good bike without the battery.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you this.
Yeah.
Or you can help yourself out and depends on where your trails are. And I said this to Rob, if I was to invest, for sure I'd go the e-bike.
It makes so much
I've slated them for so many years, but I'd have to hold my hand up and be like, if I was going to get one and I'm not around where you've got that sort of access of transport to get you up,
it makes sense.
Back home in Wales, you see the guys with e-bikes, they're doing like 5 laps to your 1 or 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like by the time you're halfway up the mountain, they're flying past, nearly knocking you off your bike, and you're going, he's going uphill as well. Yeah,
that happened to us, and we were out there, and Rob and I were sitting down on a stump because we were ruined, and then this bloke just went around about 5 times in the 10 minutes that we were sitting there, like
having way more fun than you.
Yeah, and I was like, yeah, and he was just smashing through the gears as well too, because they just keep pedaling and then just send it down the trail, and I was like, yeah, I get it now.
Not sweating once he's got the air from going down.
Yeah.
You're like,
right. If I do get one, I'll keep my bike as well too, because I do like that little bit of fitness element of it, but I'm doing it more for I get enough fitness in the gym, and also I want to be able to do it and it not. If you go for like a 3-hour ride, your legs are ruined the next day. Yeah. Like and I want to keep squatting and stuff like that. So I'll be definitely getting an e-bike. I'll eat my words, but it's to me it's like a motocross bike. So that's what
I don't know what the prices are out here in terms of dollars, but I remember looking back home, you could probably pick one up for like a good one, £2,000-3,000.
Yeah, so that'd be probably like 6-ish grand here.
Okay.
Something like that. So the one, you probably, because it's one of those things, you're probably better off spending the extra bit because you got more components with the battery and there's a motor in it. And
well, this is the thing. You buy one of the cheaper ones, yes, it's going to do the job. You're going to have a great time. Battery's going to end up wearing off. You need one that's got a good battery to go with a good bike.
Yeah, good, and also good suspension as well too, because you got an extra 10 kilos on there from the battery, so you can have.
I wonder if the travel is more on those bikes.
You can,
because of the extra weight, is it?
You can get longer travel ones, but it's probably more. Longer travel would be better, but just like higher spec suspension, just this,
the shock absorbers, bigger stanchions as well too, like thicker suspension will make a bigger difference as well. And then if it's around here in Sydney, one of the things is that it's rocky, so you're just always slamming into rocks, which mate, it's so gnarly when you come off in something like that.
yeah that's why you stay on there. It's such a hard thing to get used to, because I'm just like, it's fun though, because one thing in motocross that looks like I used to not like it because it wasn't a jump or anything like that, but like the whoops or stutters, where you just fly across the bumps, across the skim, across the top, and you watch them do it at a professional level, and they just wide open, like straight across the top, and then into the next. And there's a couple of trails where we go that are like that it's not perfectly groomed stutters, but you're just flying across the rocks and everything's, that's the fun. That's really cool.
It's good when you've got a good bike that can handle that, you know?
Yeah.
Mel would probably find it hard with a hardtail, just taking the brunt of everything.
She's got my old one. So because I got one a few years back and I just wanted to get something that I could try to jump with.
Okay.
That was, and as a kid, any bike that I got, I'd just ruined because I'd just ride it too hard.
Yeah.
So what's going on here? We've got some Google TV. There we go. And so I was like, I think I want to get into downhill bike, like, or trail riding or whatever. So I bought one. I think it's a Polygon.
Okay.
Kind of good mid-spec level. They've got good components on them, but they're not the highest of spec, but it's a kind of good entry level, which was, so I got that and it was like 15 or 1600 bucks. And it's good enough, but it's not built for properly jumping and stuff like that. So I took it out with Rob and it was good to get used to doing that. And then I ended up buying his bike, which is a little bit higher spec, and it makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference. You see,
just not hearing the chatter of the bike underneath you and stuff like that just gives you so much more confidence. Like, and having that bit more suspension underneath.
Well, I've been lucky that my friend in New Zealand had a great Specialized bike that he was like, ride this. I've just bought a new one, so I had the luxury of going straight into that. Yeah. And then back home, my brothers have both got awesome bikes. Yeah. So I've just jumped straight on there. I haven't needed to buy and splash out myself. You know? Yeah. And Rob's like, "Oh, get the bike out here," and they're in the shed doing nothing. Yeah. They don't get used. This is the thing. So I could get it shipped out. I don't know what the price would be, and I'd have to get a box and everything. Yeah. But I suppose it's probably a cheaper commitment than actually spending and buying one here, because you need the helmet and things to go with it, you know? Yeah. You can't just go, I got a bike, let's go. Yeah. You want the gloves. Yeah. Some sort of gear.
I got a spare helmet, mate, so that's not an excuse.
There you go. Well, I might even just, I said to Rob yesterday, I might even just come along on one of these trips and just sort of pay for the bike the day or the weekend or something, just get something out of it. But if we're like going somewhere where we need to do the pedaling up and down, we're only going to get one or two runs, and I'm spending X amount. I'm probably not going to be keen for that. Yeah, you know,
you're probably better off. Well, where we go quite a bit at Mill Creek is it's not a whole lot of climbs, like real big steep ones. It's not like Threadbow where I don't even know how long that would be to pedal up. You wouldn't want to do it. I don't know. You wouldn't want to do it, I don't think. If you got up, you wouldn't want to come down. So
you'd be having lunch up there and then make you one trip down.
Yeah. So that's what it's going to be like for me next week. I think it's like maybe 12 Ks up or something like 12
that. 12 Ks up.
I'm going to be on holiday, so it's fine.
And how far can you drive the van up there?
I don't know. That might be a better option, but then I have all the fun, and then I got to pedal all the way back up. I'd probably rather finish on the fun. And anyway, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to Orange. You've been to Orange before,
Yeah, been Orange. Been Orange. Only playing rugby. Yeah. Piss up.
Yeah. How good's the bus trip?
Bus trip, mate.
Because my hometown used to play Orange. There was 2 teams in Orange and 2 teams in Bathurst, and that's where we would travel to. Yeah. Like from 2.5 hours further west.
Who did we play? The Emus.
Yeah, that's where we used to play. Yeah, they've got they have, who is it? It's Emus, and one of them's got like the NFL sort of type posts. I think that's Emus. The one in town.
Yes. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah. I don't remember what the other team is. They played them. I think Peterson played them the year before.
Orange City and Orange Emus.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, being there. What's it known for? Is it what?
Yeah, wineries and stuff like that. Trail of Awesomeness is out there as well too. Mountain biking. There's actually some really, really good mountain biking.
I actually heard that. Yeah, it's pretty good for sort of like the mountain biking and the trails out there. Yeah.
And then it's probably one of the nicer country towns in sort of central west New South Wales that it's like, it's built up enough, there's shops and stuff there, but it's like just like a nice town.
Nice to get away from sort of like the city life.
Yeah. So, and then I'm going to head on to Mudgee.
Yeah.
Mate, I guess we will wrap it up in a second. One last question. We got one question on the Instagram poll or the Instagram question box. What advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
18 yourself. I guess take risks while you're young.
Yeah.
I think, you've got a lot of things going on as you're sort of like 18, so you can afford to take them risks.
Yep.
Don't be scared to, because the older you get, you're going to have more responsibility.
Yeah, true.
So if you have something that you're thinking about, just get it done. You don't want to think about all those responsibilities and then thinking, I should have done this back then when I had the idea.
Yeah.
Just go out and do it.
Yeah. Sounds like you've done that, mate.
That's it.
Just crack
That's
on
it.
and get it done.
We had that chat about the fear.
Yeah.
Start saying yes a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, that's a good little finish, mate. Thanks for coming on. That was good fun.
No worries. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
We'll definitely have to do that again, and we'll get a few of the boys in
Definitely.
and we'll talk a little bit of shit and go from there.
Yep, definitely,
Awesome.
mate.
Cheers.
Wicked.
Oh, it's so weird taking that off.
Oh, you can hear again.
Yeah.